And then there we go. Your screen share is loading, and I hope you're seeing the screen. So again, just going through the theme, no, and this verse in particular has been on my mind, no. So it's Mark 16 verse 8, and let me read it here. And they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. And then it says some of the earliest manuscripts do not include 16:9-20. So again, I'm taking this. This is what do you call this? The ending of the book of Mark. So if you have been, a long time in Christian circles, usually the gospel ending we know the most or the best is that of Matthew, where Jesus is on the uh, mountain, and he says to his people, uh, all power has been given unto me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. So it's called the Great Commission, and that is again found in the book of Matthew. Mark is a little different, but I'm wondering if maybe we also need it, not just the Great Commission verse. So Mark 16:8 actually ends on this note, no? And we'll tackle both verses. Both sentences here, because there's this line that says, "Na ay," there's a, what do you call this? There happens to be a two endings of Mark, no? Mark 16:8, and then suddenly there were some manuscripts that had 16:9-20. So, any guesses why that is so? Why do you think there's two endings? Just and the reason is kind of like somehow found in this verse. Thoughts? Did I share the answer to this with you? What do you think is the reason nga mo ni siya ang ending sa Mark? Or rather,
Nahadlok sila, so wala na lang nilagi sa baon sa ending ng second.
yeah. Okay, so historically, that's good actually, no? Historically, this is in a sense where the book of Mark ends on this sentence, and then for some reason, no, I think the idea for me is always it's kind of hanging. Maybe Mark, the guy who wrote this was John Mark, who was of course a follower of Jesus, na marag eyewitness, no. But I think maybe either the ending got cut, or maybe when he wrote it only up to this point. And for many people, it's incomplete, no. It ends there, and then it's like murag kulang og conclusion. So when you look at the book of Matthew and you look at the book of Luke, which is similar actually it's very similar to the book of Mark. They have good and in a sense proper endings with a conclusion. But this one does not. It ends there, no? But if you include 16:9-20, it is almost complete, no? But again, the 16:9-20, many people say dili na si Mark, no? It's not Mark anymore who was the one who wrote this. So if you take it as a whole, the ending actually is up to here, and up to 8 only, no, for Mark. So what are things we can learn here? And again, the theme of this entire month for CBCM is discipleship, no, or marching with Jesus. And this is actually a good point for our discipleship process or our march, no, because how do we imagine someone who is a disciple of Jesus. Okay? Because many times we think of, if I'm a follower of Jesus, I have to have it all together. I have to have it, I'm composed. There's this sense that holiness is being, nothing affects you, which in one sense can be true when you're filled with the Spirit. But again, this actually gives, I think for me, a better picture of what a disciple is. Okay, because this describes people who went out and followed Jesus, and their ending was like this: and they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone. Again, I think all of this describes a disciple better. And if you take a look at it, these are all very, very emotional statements. In fact, you can find a range of emotions here. No, let's take a look at what those are. Now, they went out and fled, so they were scared, they were trembling, they were astonished. Other versions state that they could not, astonishment meant that they could not speak or say anything, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. So, in a sense, being afraid in many circumstances. But when you think about it, for me, following God is more like this. You get into a range of emotions, sometimes very positive, but at times very negative. And if you know your scripture, the good thing about this, the amazing thing about this is that these disciples are actually seconds away from seeing something amazing, or I would say someone amazing, because these were actually disciples who would see Jesus. Okay, one in particular, Mary, this describes her, and she would be someone who would see Jesus like a couple of moments later. So maybe, one of the things that I would like to lay tonight is that as we march for Jesus, it's okay to feel these emotions that are somehow, sometimes very negative. And we might say, Lord, I'm following you. Why are these things happening to me? Why am I feeling all of these things? Why am I anxious? Why am I feeling depressed? And again, perhaps we could be also like, these disciples, because, God is orchestrating their story as they follow him. So that's in a sense, what I would say is, padayon lang, igsuon, no? Kung sa Cebuano pa. Let's continue onwards, because even though there are emotions like this, God has not abandoned us. And so, I think, so that's one of the things that we can see here. And I hope you see it, no? Na sometimes even these kinds of endings are useful for our march with Jesus. And then let me comment here on the other sentence. The other sentence is, some of the earliest manuscripts do not include Mark 16:9-20. So you may be interested to read it. And again, it is something that for many, if you analyze it, what do you call this? They would say that this is not Mark anymore who wrote it. And so that's why it has a double parenthesis. And yet, the interesting thing about this is that this was included and is still included in our Bible up to today. So what's your thoughts on this? No? What do you think about this inclusion? Is it positive or is it negative? And I'll give mine na rin. For me, it is very much a positive. In that it shows that the Christian journey is one that can be done together, even through the ages. Okay, sometimes we think that's a a negative moragi plagiarize, no? But actually it shows that, it's not just John Mark who has a say on what's happening, but others can be included in the story. Okay, so some will say this is not part of the Bible because it's not John Mark who wrote it, but it is. It's part of the Bible. Christians throughout the ages have used it many times, and sermons have been preached many times on these verses, and this has also helped many. There are words here that are not used in other passages of the Bible, and yet God is a God who has blessed that through the years and through the centuries, even up to this time. Okay, so what I would say is that if we again look at it from the Christian journey, it shows that the thing about discipleship or marching with Jesus is it's better done together, not alone. So that's why we even today, gather together even tonight. And and one thing you can actually see this inclusion, the idea that everybody can be involved. We see this in the life of Jesus, no? In Luke 9:49 to 50, for example, Jesus said, there's this instance, no? John answered, or rather, John 1 said, Master, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he does not follow us. But Jesus said to him, do not stop him, for the one who is not against you is for you. And again, this was amazingly in the time that Jesus was alive, and people were already, casting out demons in his name. Pero they're not the original. And yet Jesus said, let them continue, for they are not against you. So there's this certain, inclusiveness when we look at Jesus. Okay. I would also say that when we march for Jesus, the intent that we are marching, or going forward is more important than even how well we are doing. No? I've said this in other messages, no? But the important thing is that we are continuing and we are not giving up. Okay, because we can stop after a certain point, because we think we cannot continue. But let's just go on, and then God, even up to today, will honor your intentions and do something about it. In fact, there's a proverb that goes like this: where there are no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. Okay? Please explain. What's this about? Okay, no, the idea here, no, is that you can say you're excellent, your manger is clean, but wala namang oxen, no? Wala namang, so we can actually say, mas mabuti pa yung iba, medyo clean, no? But actually, if you're in the depths of so much things happening, maybe it's because because things are happening in your life and your oxen are coming out and you're producing crops. So kinda, as we go and do things with Jesus, lots of messes happen, and that's okay. That's kind of part of what I want to point out this evening. Let the discipleship process continue, and it's the important thing is not that, yes, it's great to be excellent, but we cannot be excellent all the time. But in every situation, we know that God is there and he's part of the process. So I think that will be all for this evening, and let me just